The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening. I am Linda Peavy, Communications Consultant for the Progressive National Baptist Convention, Inc. Welcome to the Pnbc webinar series. Today you have joined Essential 21st Century Technology Tools to Engage and Grow Your Church, hosted by Christopher Norford, Vice President and Co-founder of Connexus. Throughout the webinar, please feel free to type your questions into the chat box in the lower right-hand corner. They will be addressed during the presentation and afterwards on a first-come, first-served basis. Any question not addressed will be compiled, reviewed, and answered after the webinar. Please know that the presentation is being recorded, and everyone will receive a copy of the webinar along with any answered questions. Thank you again for attending, and now we will begin Essential 21st Century Technology Tools to Engage and Grow Your Church. Christopher?
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you to the participants that are attending tonight's series. Appreciate your time. So what are essential technologies that your church should be using? A few months back, I received from a pastor a book by Edward Hammett, a very prominent author. Some of you may be familiar. In Hammett's book, he talked about the challenges that many established churches face and how these challenges affect church growth and health. The book is titled, How Do You Keep People Over 60 Years of Age while at the same time reaching people under 40 years of age? Very interesting book, and I think it sets a nice tone for this workshop. I would argue there are several key technologies that are absolutely essential when it comes to communication, engagement, and notifying members, and certainly supporting your church's mission in the communities that you serve. And depending on that mission, your vision and focus, some of these or all of these technologies may be appropriate. So with that said, my goal this evening is to inform and have you really think about how these technology tools may benefit your church. Key tools that we want to talk about would include website, SMS, text messaging, email, social media, voice broadcasting, and mobile apps. And to be successful today, you must be able to swiftly and professionally communicate and respond to your audience across a broad range of channels and interact with them in a personal way. And this includes voice, chat, text, email, and as I said, app. So multiple channels, and if done properly, which is the goal, can provide a complete user experience that's engaging. So I want to start really by talking about multi-channel communication. What is multi-channel communication? And in the simplest form, it's about giving the user a choice and providing convenience and having the ability to interact with the audience, your members, your community, visitors, on their preferred communication channel. In this sense, a channel might be print, if we're talking digital, social media, email, certainly website, and all of the other things, blogs, apps, streaming videos. Those are the different ways that you want to communicate. But it's really being consistent with that, making it relevant to the individual. So the big picture when you're thinking of multi-channel messaging, and for the church also marketing, is really what makes multi-channel communication, to think about what makes it very important, is that research shows that people shift between between channels. And again, blogs, emails, apps, those are the channels that I'm talking about. Research showed that people switch between channels to complete tasks using an average of 3 different combinations every day. So going from social media to mobile app to Twitter, these are the different channels, and the average person does 3 of those per day to get content, read email, make purchases, listen to music. In the case of the mobile, for example, 99% of mobile users go online to access content and information. So content being, again, whatever you may produce on your church's website, your bulletin, sermons, that's all content. And the people that are using mobile phones today, 99% of what they're looking for from that mobile phone to get online is content. And it's going to tie into the larger picture of what we're going to be discussing. So why is multi-channel important? Well, according to a report done by the Pew Research Group, they did an internet report done April of this year. And keep in mind, 61% of American adults have smartphones. And as I said, 99% of those mobile users go online to access content. Other interesting data, which is going to be important as we build upon getting into the specific channels, know that 67% use their phone to share pictures, videos, or comment on events that are happening locally. So that's content and then local content. And then 56% use their phones to learn about local community activities and events, and follow breaking news also. So all this is important when we think about multi-channel and how the average user is looking at these different technologies and what they're using the technologies for. So when we're talking about, and I apologize for that typo, when we talk about essential technology, website being a major core to multi-channel. So in our digital age, church websites, by research, are more important than ever. And I'll share a quick story with you, talking to a friend who recently shared how his family found their current church after moving to a new city. He basically said, you know, before he stepped foot into the church, he went to the website. And if the website did not have what he needed in terms of directions, is it convenient for online giving, whether or not they had childcare, they really didn't look at that church based on their needs. And he's not alone. There are 280 million internet users in the US, and 87% of those internet users use mobile phone. Most of the searches are done by people looking for things locally. I said that earlier. So people expect to see current, updated websites, interactive tools that show event happenings at your church, video streams of sermons, social media that allow them to connect to the social touch points of your church, things of that nature. So, personally, if you look at that, can you imagine, let's say, a business or a restaurant or a news site, for that matter, not having an updated website or having interactive tools? It could be a disaster. And how would you interact with that business or organization? And that personal feeling, you may move on and go to someone else, to the next restaurant that offers more of an online restaurant reservation or talks about the seasonal entrees that are taking place in the restaurant and so on. So people react to information at the church on websites the same way. So the importance of a website, and then the importance of making that website mobile friendly is very important. And let's quickly qualify what is a mobile website. What I mean by that is it's very much like a traditional website. It has all the same features, pages, call to action, sign up with your email. The biggest difference when we say mobile-ready site is the design of the site. And it's designed to work with the mobile phone, which is smaller, so less content on the device. It's designed to work with tablets, scroll features, and so on. So it's the design that makes it very unique when we talk about mobile-ready. So a website that is not mobile-friendly doesn't display well on a mobile device. So it's difficult to navigate and result in your audience, it tends to be a negative experience for your audience and they tend to move on. So it's very important when we say mobile-friendly website. So the importance from the website and making it mobile-ready is what's happening with Google and how Google has changed the algorithms to downrank a website that is not mobile-friendly. Again, I'll mention this again, 60% of American adults have smartphones and 99% of those mobile phone users go online for content via their mobile phone. So the largest search engine, Google, recently came down on the side of the optimization for mobile. They have changed their algorithms to downrank sites that are not mobile ready. What this means to you or your church, if you don't have a website, or if you do and the website's not mobile ready, you're going to be downgraded. People who are looking, those 99%ers that are looking from their mobile phone, and they come to your site, well, Google is going to downrank that search and show something else in its place that is mobile ready. Another church in the community, let's say, that's mobile ready when these people are searching. So a lower ranking would take place. What I think is also interesting from the Pew Research Center, it's how it looks at specific groups, relevant to the African American churches here, specific groups and their behaviors with smartphones. The key here is once you understand the behavior of the audience, you tend to think about what type of channels work best for your church based on your focus, your mission. So in this Pew report, it's really interesting. It talks about smartphone-dependent users. In this case, these groups are less likely to own some other type of computing device and less likely to have a bank account, less likely to be covered by health care, less likely to own a home. These are 12% of African Americans, and for the Latinos, 13% compared to 4% of whites. So it's saying that this percentage, their only way to access the internet is using the smartphone versus having something at home. The research becomes even more interesting when you think of your church and how you target certain groups and what channels that you go after. When you take the earlier data, and I'm going to keep saying this, that shows 60% of smartphone owners use their mobile phones and then they search locally. In other words, they will use their phone to search for the activities, for religious organizations, for events. And if I'm the church pastor, let's say, or the marketing manager in an African American church, this data says to me, from a community outreach standpoint, a mobile presence is a must to reach this African American segment that is doing their internet searching via the mobile phone. So they're not going to come to your website because Google is going to downrank them and show others with mobile-ready sites. And if there's not a presence there to show that segment, that 12% segment, they're not going to see it because Google's not going to show it. So from an outreach standpoint, seeing all of the data of lower health, they're not covered by health insurance, likely not to own a home, and so on, how do you target this segment? So that's one idea. And when you look at the big picture, with the mainstream shift of users moving to mobile, and this is where Google has gone, because that's where the majority of people are going. Google is saying, we're going to be showing mobile. So with that shift, the Main Street folks outside of the 12% is going to be on mobile. So it makes sense that your church, just like a website, if you have that in place, then the website should also have a mobile component. If your church is focused on growth, mobile would be a plan that makes sense. So I just wanted to share that. In terms of keys to mobile optimization success, having a mobile-friendly site or responsive web design, let's say, is simply this. It means a website design should adjust gracefully to fit the desktop, the tablet, or the smartphone. The worst user experience is to come in with a mobile phone to a website that is not fully centered with on the page of the site. The text is too large. There's too much content. It's a negative experience, and people tend to move on. So the main thrust here is the design should be responsive or mobile-friendly. Have a simple navigation. Remember, mobile phones have limited real estate, so reduce the text. It's okay to omit certain items. Reduce the amount of text on the mobile phone. That's a plus. The next feature would be SMS, or text messaging. The data speaks for itself, and I'll share 3 points. It's all about, if you're sending an email or a text or Facebook, how many people are receiving this information or content that you're sending? So what is the penetration? How many people are clicking on what you send? So if you send an email with a link, it's called click-through. Click-through rate means if you provide a link to, say, an event or news story, 20% of the people who receive it will click on it to learn more about your event or news story. That's a click-through. So emails have a 20% open rate and emails have a 0.84% open click-through rate. Facebook has a 12% read rate and a 0.33 click-through rate compared to text messaging that has a 98% penetration to the audience. If you send it to 100 people, 98% of them are going to get it. 20% of them are going to click through to the story that you want to send. So when you think of penetration, text message is very direct and gets to a higher source. When you're thinking of a broader context of sending all 3, now you're thinking of a multi-channel type of communication because everyone has a preference, and you're going to do that to increase the likelihood of getting your message to your audience. Text messaging strategies are really easy to deploy. And certainly if you're sending it to smartphone users, many of them understand that language when you're sending out that message. So even if one doesn't know how to do it and a company does it for you, the recipients of those sort of things tend to understand. So let's just look at 3 strategies that many churches tend to utilize. So your pastor, let's say, has a radio show, and your pastor wants to promote to listeners who are interested to learn more about the church to simply text the church's name. Let's say it's Grace Church, text Grace to a very particular or specific number assigned to the church. So that pastor is able to tell the listeners, text Grace to 95577, and when the user or the listener does that, it goes to this sign-up page. So the user on their phone receives basically a data sheet that's branded and customized to the church, where the church says, these are the sort of information that I want. I want name, phone number, email, address, preference when it comes to ministry, volunteering. all of that could be customized. But once you text that from listening to that radio show, it provides you on your smartphone a sign-up form that you complete, and it automatically goes into the church's database. And it's as simple as you see here, text 955 to a very unique, it's called a keyword, Pnbc. And when you text that, this comes up, you complete the form, and all of that data automatically goes into the system. So it takes away from someone data entering, and it really gives the listener, or it could be a visitor, it could be updating members' contact information for that segment of your membership that talks that language. They can provide that information to you. And again, we're talking combination of different things. So that's one execution of a SMS, and what makes it really exciting. Another execution would be being able to deliver information on popular events or things that are happening in the news very quickly. Text gives you a reach to members. Remember, 98% of the folks that receive a text message, 28% open that text message. So if there's something that's happening in the news and you want to reach your congregation, we know all the things that were happening in South Carolina last week. Voter rights was happening last week. So if you wanted to inform, educate, advise your audience, and you have their mobile numbers, you could quickly send out a text message. 44% of smartphone owners look at their phone every 30 minutes. So you have a direct channel to get that moving information out. The second thing that could be interesting would be on social media. So think of your Facebook account where folks are coming in, they're giving thumbs up, they're sharing stories, and some of them could be friends of friends, and you have no idea who they are. Well, one of the things that you can do is embed within that Facebook a form similar to this, where it says, join our news and alerts. Something opens up that's branded, folks are able to data enter their information, and you capture that. And the same thing could be done when you're thinking of a tweet. So you have followers, they're coming in to follow you as a pastor or as a church. You can simply send a message out, please sign up to our news and alerts to stay up to date with all the things that are happening at our church. And they click on that link, a very customized form within their website will open up, providing an online experience if they came in through the website, or if they're looking at it from their mobile phone, it will adjust to fit the mobile phone and provide them that information, capture data. So text becomes very interesting. I want to be respectful of time. Linda, please let me know if we need to take any questions as we go forward. Just let me know.
Okay, I sure will. Thank you.
So the next area of the list of multi-channel technology tools that I think are important, a main number one mobile activity is email. So that's the backbone of activity. Any type of communication plan must and should involve email. But it's how you involve the email where I would challenge those of you that are doing this now, look at enhancing your email communication and doing more with it. So one, making your email multi-channel. Link your email communication to social media. So your Facebook, your Twitter, Instagram. Depending on your focus and your audience, you want to link it to your social media. You want to add sharing buttons to that email. So if there's something that you're talking about, the women's ministry that's taking place, or a conference that's happening, and you send out an email, you want to have something in there that says, share this with friends, and virally pass that message on. Most social media that you use are going to have a lot of these features built in that you could easily set up sharing buttons. So optimize also that email for mobile use. Again, you could send it via the email if it goes to someone's desktop, but they're a mobile smartphone user. then it's going to be very negative on what they receive. The user experience is going to be negative. So make sure that email is optimized for mobile, for tablets, smartphone. Then capture emails, as I mentioned earlier, from your social media fans. And not just that, capture their mobile numbers. Capture, things that they may be interested in terms of engagement with the church. I like to volunteer. I like ministry, things of that nature. So you want to capture that. And then have a responsive design to that. So social media, is your church taking advantage of it? I like to look at the numbers. So when you look at the numbers, it says that you should be looking at social media as a way to engage with your congregation, your communities, your visitors, because they're already there. When you look at Facebook or LinkedIn and all of these others, you can see where the numbers are. 52% of online adults use 2 or more social media sites. So know your facts about social media and where your church plans on having a presence. For example, besides young adults, women are particularly likely to be on Instagram, along with Hispanics, African Americans, and those who live in urban environments. So if you're targeting a specific audience for growth or thinking ahead, these facts are important. Just as the fact that in the next 30 years, 1 out of every 3 people that you meet on the street will be Hispanic. So how are you looking at that to talk to that audience to look at growth for your church? Okay. So Twitter is particularly popular among those 50 who are under 50 and college educated. And you can get the breakdown of numbers when it comes to income. So when you're looking at where do you spend your dollars to communicate with an audience, is Twitter account and engaging and building that channel something you want to look at. 27% of the users on Twitter earn between $50,000 and $74,000 a year. So those are interesting things that you can glean when you think of social media. Then you start thinking of LinkedIn, and you start thinking of Facebook, and you start looking at your community and who you serve as a church and how do you target that audience. So the fact is, we're in a digital age. Facebook is the largest when it comes to social media in this country. 161 million people use Facebook daily, including 31% senior citizens. So if there's an argument that we have an older church congregation, well, 2 things. One, senior citizens are using social media, and your congregation is getting older, and the growth of your congregation is using social media. So again, if you're looking at growth, if you're looking to balance how do you keep people under, over 60 as well as capture folks under 40, there's a fine balance of looking at a multi-channel approach to speak to the diversity of your audience. So churches should use Facebook, make Facebook social, and use multi-channel types of engagement tools in your social media strategy. So distribute your church marketing. So if you're having events, you're having speakers come to your church, other pastors, promote that on Facebook. Support the different ministries by giving them real estate on those social media under the church. Let them promote on there as well. Capture email, mobile numbers. Find the folks in the church who are very excited, and they could really speak volumes to what the church is doing, their ministries, and if they're someone who's online, have them unleash them onto the social media as volunteers where they could keep that communication alive. Another interesting tool is voice broadcasting. And some of you may know this as robocall, although both technologies offer significantly different capabilities and flexibility. In general, a robocall uses a computerized auto dialer to deliver pre-recorded messages as if from a robot. And it's more hardware-based. And you can make mass calling to these numbers of folks within the community. The voice broadcasting is more of a cloud-based mass communication, send to hundreds or thousands of folks. And the system manages a database list, but what's unique there is that you can also include text messaging that would convert that voice to text or that text to voice. For example, let's say there's a men's retreat this weekend at your church. There are 300 men have signed up. You put in the system a voice broadcast that will be sent by text message. It also would be sent by the voice as a reminder on the date of your choosing. And in many cases, you can include email and social media messaging, Twitter, Facebook posts, to coincide that voice broadcast within these voice broadcasting systems. So you have a lot of flexibility. So now you're coming into multi-channel communication. You're also getting into better managing the time of volunteers, the person that's marketing, because there's one solution that's delivering these sort of things that are out there. So the voice broadcast, definitely a personal way to hear from your church, and when you think of the diversity of an older audience who's less inclined to go online or get text, voice is a way to speak to that group, as many of you may know, as well as the folks who may not be able to come out to church, or updating folks on weather changes and schedules and so on, with a combination of text and email. Something like that would make sense. In terms of mobile app as the last piece of that multi-channel communication that churches should have, and for those of you, when I say mobile app, a mobile app is basically a downloadable software that you get on your phone. Many of you have phones with mobile apps already preloaded. But it's a software that's downloadable, it's accessible from your mobile or your tablet. Unlike a website, the mobile app are not displayed within a browser like online. You can receive data from the internet and hold that data, and it can be accessed offline. So when you see, and when I say app, think about things like Walgreens is an app that goes on your phone and refill your prescriptions. You could find a pharmacy in your location. You could schedule flu shots. Real applications of a mobile app. Phones may come preloaded with something like that, or you could download. Or Uber, if you want to get a car with a personal driver. Uber now is on a lot of mobile apps that are already set up for you, and you can get a car or pay for your parking. These are all really nice apps that I'm talking about. But with that said, although there are many reasons to look at getting a mobile app, your church should really ask the practical question, why do we need a mobile app? Again, some of these may apply to your church, some may not. If you're going through a transition of we're looking for growth, but we have an older congregation, it just comes into a timing of when do you get that mobile app? When do you get text messaging and all of these other features? So you may have it in your overall multi-channel strategy, but the question is, if your members, majority of them, do not have smartphones and you're not there, then it doesn't make any sense to get a mobile app. You may want to wait, but know that's something in your strategy that you ultimately would love to deploy, because you have a huge audience that are using smartphones and mobile apps and so on. So it just depends on timing based on your strategy.
And Christopher, we have one quick question, and it is, will charts be made available as well? I'm assuming the person is referring to the various charts that you're showing as a part of the presentation.
Sure, and I think you said that it's going to be on video, so that's something that you could pull down.
Yes, so you will receive the entire webinar. It is being recorded, and it will include the charts that you currently see. So please feel free to continue to ask questions in the chat box or the question box. Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about evaluating your church technology needs. So the key steps here when you're looking at these types of technologies is really to do a program audit. Again, you know, we work with at Connexus large churches, small churches, every size church, and across the spectrum, you know, folks are at different points. So you really, I would encourage you to do an audit analysis of where you are. So establish a baseline of what you have. And looking at this chart, it's really looking at your resources, looking at your volunteers, looking at the makeup of your members, and the current touch points that you have now that you're engaging. Are you in social media? You have a website, talking about making the website mobile friendly. We want to start targeting a certain audience, age, or type. You know, so you really want to lay that out. So clear, overarching objectives with channel-specific priorities for what you want. For example, objective might be to create platform age audiences between the ages of 24 and 30, because your church has other numbers that's lacking with this group, and these are the targets you want to go after. So our church focus channels might be Instagram, because a younger audience is there, and more women, as I mentioned earlier. It might be Facebook, mobile, to tap into the community type of audience that are in around your church. So I would say create that plan, get lots of input from other stakeholders, look at budgets, which is very important, and then once you have that in place, launch the plan. And you know, you have key people that are there that are overseeing different parts of it. They understand the focus, the mission. Launch the plan, and just stay open. I would say let them do their thing and back away, and let the folks take charge who's running these different programs to start building it. Keep content consistent. So if you're now having 2 and 3 and 5 different online properties, website, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, mobile app, all these sort of things, consistency is very important. So your brand message, your tone, your manner should all be consistent. So if people were to see your communication in print, online, or hear it over the phone, they know it's you, and more importantly, they can quickly tell what it is you want and know how to respond to you. So I think key And there are many different, you know, forms to reach your audience, as you see here. Again, you can choose what makes sense to you, but from, you know, having streaming video that folks could plug in and look at sermons that are happening in the church if you're a very large church or people are not able to come to church, or it might be a tool that you exact because, you know, the weather was bad this last summer, a lot of snow days, and, you know, you still want to hold service, but you could do that virtually where folks could tap in. So depending what the need is, you have the different tools in place to deploy. I would also say make it visual. Again, if your website is showing something and then understanding that Google is looking at mobile and mobile is very content rich, you really want to look at how you could utilize images and video to get your message across, and certainly to increase your ranking within Google as people search for you. So users, you may look at how users can upload images to Facebook, Instagram. How do you utilize that? We're sharing of pictures or Pinterest. All of these sort of things you may want to look at. And even Facebook news feeds that are interesting for video or pictures. And again, all that is inside Facebook. It tends to make it really easy. So if you were to launch an Instagram or Facebook or anything else like that, they tend to have it set up very user-friendly. And there are other types of programs out there that would help you even manage multiple social media sites. You're looking at, a lot of different properties depending on the size of your church. So the main takeaway here is keep it visual and allow folks to share and update your content. So having someone to manage that for you. Develop a multi-channel plan. So your multi-channel communication strategy should look at the whole communication process from the viewpoint of the members. Again, it's a personal thing, but you want to make sure that the members feel that they have a choice of how they communicate or respond to you. Part of that is, if I'm someone that prefers voice or print or mobile, I'd love to have a choice in how my church communicates to me. So give them a choice. Keep that in your strategy. As I said, your brand message, your tone should be consistent. And folks should quickly understand what you're trying to say or have to do. And I'll show you, when you think of a multi-channel strategy, this could be a good sort of example of what you should be doing. But now you think of the channels that you want to go after. So is it email? Is it social media? Is it video? Is it website? Once you list out your channels, you really want to have specific goals. So have properly set goals, build value, member and community connections to fuel the growth of the church. Then you want to know your outcomes. So, we want to increase member engagement. We want to attract new as well as returning visitors. We want to promote the church's ministry, different event, and the church, maybe the pastor. So once you have the channels you want to go after, the goals, the outcomes, maybe not necessarily in that order, you start plugging in the different buckets and vetting that through the different groups throughout the church, ministries and other stakeholders. Are there any questions at this point?
Yes, there is one, and He's asking, do you have links to resources where churches may be able to learn how to do websites or some of the other tools?
Right. Yeah, those could be provided, certainly. I would say the biggest link would be Google. If you were to go into Google and type in how to build a website as a novice, you will have probably several pages of people providing you instruction, video on how to do all these sort of things, and then, getting direct help for those that need one-on-one. So I would say the first step would be just to go to Google, type in a search, how to build a website as a novice, and that will develop. But I would also say that one would be surprised, pleasantly, I feel, of the cost it would be to develop a site. A novice could develop a site, but a lot of the things that I mentioned earlier, where if you're developing the site, the majority of folks that are coming there, if they don't have that positive user experience, they're probably not going to come back. So one certainly have to look at budgeting and these sort of things, but what's the value of losing people on a regular basis who come to a site that is not properly done, and then they just never come back because they go elsewhere. And especially if folks are coming through sites, web, mobile apps, and so on, to look at the site, which is a bit more difficult. That could be very negative. So yes, you can go to Google, but I think it would be less expensive, easier to connect with someone who does that regularly.
In addition, this is Linda. I do know that a company called Soul Solution, they're affiliated with Radio One, is completing the redesign of the Pnbc website. And I know that they will be offering discounts to Pnbc churches for the development of their church website. So I will send to you contact information for the company Soul Solution. And I believe that's it for the questions for now. If there are any other questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box or the question box.
Well, that was actually my last slide. Timing went well. So in closing, I would say that, and for those of you that read earlier about Connexus and what we do, we are a company that provides multi-channel. So all of the individual things that we discuss work, but we look more at a multi-channel, overarching type of place. So if you want to write emails and those sort of things, that's great. But we would also say that multi-channel tends to get you where you need to go by communicating of your audience. You could see some of the folks that we work with. Certainly, we support Pnbc, but work with small, mega companies, schools, not-for-profits, types of groups. So those of you that are interested in speaking one-on-one about your church, and even the question about the website, we can go deeper in that and that as well. Call me directly. My number is listed here. You can email, you can call. I'd be happy to speak with you and share with you my thoughts. Church is at that point of evaluating how do we grow or how do we begin something like with digital. So if there are no other questions, I'd like to thank you all for your time.
Again, thank you so much, Christopher, for the presentation, and thank you for everyone who joined us this evening. Again, please look forward to receiving the presentation, the entire webinar. Also, you will receive via email a very brief 6-question survey. Please complete it. It will give us opportunities to provide you with additional webinars in the future to understand what your interests are. So please take just a few moments to complete the survey when you receive it. And feel free, if you have additional questions, you can, I'm going to put my email address. Please feel free to send any additional questions to the email. I'm Linda Peavy. I'd be happy to address them and speak with Christopher afterwards to help address any questions that may come after the webinar. But thank you again for your time, and have a very, very blessed evening. Good night.